let's talk about Wicked Part 1.
Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?
So we both saw it. I have seen the musical twice, I believe. I saw it once in London in 2009, and then I saw it once here in Phoenix in, I think it was 2013, around there. And Alex, you have never seen it before, so you went into this blind, correct?
Correct. I mean, I've seen like snippets of it, but I've never actually like watched it. Like, I don't know the story, how it ends, any of that.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about it without spoilers first. We'll give our scores and what we thought about it overall in general, and then we'll give a spoiler warning and go into spoilers. But I'm very curious to hear what you thought of this, not really knowing much about it beforehand. So, Alex, if you want to go ahead and give your score first and what you thought of it.
Yeah, as like I said, as a non-musical, or not non-musical fan, but just one who hasn't seen this particular musical, I'll be honest, like the trailer didn't do it for me. Like I remember seeing the trailer and I didn't think it looked that great. I don't know. The trailer just looked kind of basic. It looked like a CGI fest kind of thing. Like it just didn't look great. Did you get that feeling from the trailer too?
I had that same kind of feeling. I wasn't that excited about it. Like I knew I liked Wicked, but sometimes when things go from musical to movie, it doesn't always translate that well. So I wasn't that excited about it when I first saw the trailer. Yeah, so like I went in with no expectations. And you know what? I gotta say, I thought it was excellent. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as say I loved it, not just liked it. Like I really enjoyed it. And of course, you know, the music's great, which, you know, I've heard the music. That's one thing I guess I should say. I have heard the music before, of course. Okay.
Or at least some of those songs, not all of them. You know, like the popular song and then the main song they play in the trailers. Like I've heard those ones. But yeah, the music was great. But I think the thing that shocked me the most was it just felt like the people who made it loved it, like cared about it. It didn't seem like a cash grab to me. Like from the opening scene, I was like, this is going to be a good movie. I could just tell just from the opening scene that it was going to be a good movie. It had the scope. It also had the set pieces for the music. It felt... I haven't even seen the musical, and it felt authentic. It felt clean. It felt great. The acting was great. Like Ariana Grande actually she surprised me a lot. I thought she was excellent as Glinda. Excellent. And, they were all excellent, but her in particular, I think it's because I wasn't expecting her to be a good actress. I knew she could sing. But yeah, the acting, everything about this movie, I thought it was great. I was impressed. I have a couple of knocks on it, which we could discuss in spoilers, but nothing crazy. Overall, I loved it for almost a 3-hour movie. It flew by. I would give this a 9 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah, that's good to hear because I have a very similar feeling about this, and I have seen the musical, like I said. I think this is one of the best musical to movie adaptations I've seen. I've seen a couple. I've seen like Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, but this one just felt like spot on. It felt like the people who made it really like knew the source material and loved it and wanted to keep it true to that, but also bring it to a new format, like the movie format. I thought the casting was spot on. I was, like you, a little worried about Ariana Grande. Obviously, like you said, I knew she could sing, but I've never really seen her act. I just missed that. Like I was a little too old for the Disney stuff that she was in.
Same.
And I thought she was probably the best actor in the movie, in possibly the toughest role in the movie.
I agree.
And then obviously Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba, she can sing, and I thought she did a good job as Elphaba as well.
Yeah, she did great too.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think one thing I wasn't really expecting in this movie was just how good the like cinematography and how good the choreography was. And it all felt so real. Like you said, you were expecting a CGI fest. I didn't really notice that much CGI. It was very like background stuff if there was any, and it was a lot of practical sets, people jumping, flipping all around, doing crazy stunts. There was just so much to look at everywhere. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. My score, I was between a 9 or a 10. Honestly, for a musical to movie adaptation, this is a 10 out of 10. Like, I don't know how they could have done it better, so I'll give it a 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I love Wicked, and I thought they nailed it.
Wow, it's been a while since we've handed out a 10.
Yeah, I think this deserves it.
It deserves it. Yeah, I could totally see that, yeah. And the minor gripes I have that brought it from a 10 to 9 isn't even necessarily movie's fault, which we'll get into it in the spoilers, but yeah, no, I could totally see that.
I saw some gripes that people had with it, and I think the thing that makes me not bump it down to a 9 is because I saw those gripes, but I think most of those gripes are going to be resolved in part 2.
Out in the next.
Yeah, and so it won't end up being much of an issue, but that's just, breaking it into a part 2, it kind of leaves some of those things open. It'll be interesting to see what your gripes are, so I won't spoil anything for part 2 though.
Yeah, like that's what's interesting about this review and why I was excited to talk about it, because you kind of know how it's going to end and you know where part 2 is going, and I have zero clue. Like, I'm not joking, I have zero clue what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, besides, like, I've seen The Wizard of Oz, but I don't know if it directly connects to that. But some of the complaints, like you said, that I have, maybe, like you said, maybe it happens in the next movie, I just don't know it.
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going to happen. I was surprised, man. I really was surprised. Like, I did want to see it. Like, I really did want to see it because I actually like musicals and I heard great things about Wicked, but I just wasn't expecting to enjoy it this much.
Yeah, I went in with kind of lower expectations because, like I said, the musical to movie transition can be rough sometimes, but I was excited for more people to see the story of Wicked because I think the story of it, the retelling of The Wizard of Oz, is so cool. It's such an interesting idea, so I'm glad that more people might get to see it because of this.
I agree, and it made bank.
Nice, good.
it made very good money. I will say the story, without getting into spoilers, it's an interesting take because I grew up watching The Wizard of Oz. I watched that movie so many times as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's interesting seeing, it almost makes you watch that movie differently,
Yeah, for sure.
So the story is, and I like the concept of it, and I kind of knew the concept of it going in. I mean, it's, Wicked. So I kind of knew like the main point of it, right? Which is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But I was worried about the execution because you could try to do a lot of these like villain into like sympathetic type villains, and it can go wrong.
It can really for easily. Sure.
And it didn't in this. At least so far, it didn't in this. We'll see part 2. But yeah, there's so much I want to talk about, but we got to get into spoilers.
Yeah, let's get into spoilers. So spoiler alert for Wicked Part 1. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. It's a great time at the theater, great music, a lot of fun, lots of stuff to look at. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
So I think you hit it on the nail. The cinematography and the sets and the way it was filmed, like that opening scene where it just kind of, showed her hat and, she melted or, it showed that scene.
End of Wizard of Oz, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and then like it kind of just scoped out with the monkeys flying and then you could see like Dorothy and them walking to the Emerald City. And I'm like, God, this is going to be a good movie. Like, I can just tell from there that it was going to be good. Like, it had the scope.
It did.
I wasn't expecting that grandness of the movie, to be honest.
For sure.
But it also has a smaller scope, too. Like, I like how it played with it. It could do both. It almost felt like a Harry Potter or something, right? Like, during school. And
yeah, it kind of did. And one thing I liked that the movie could do that the musical, because the musical is only 2 hours and 45 minutes, and this is 2.5 hours of the first half of it, they could slow down. The musical is, like, really fast-paced, very blindingly fast. They just go, go, go. But in this, there were scenes where they could slow down, take their time, like that dance scene. I honestly don't even really remember that dance scene where she's dancing with no music. I don't really remember that very vividly. Yeah. But in this, it felt like they could take their time and really build it up and like show Ariana or, Glinda really feeling for her. And I thought being able to slow down in that kind of helped some of those scenes that the musical really couldn't spend that much time on. Yeah,
that's what I've heard from reviews and stuff from people who've seen the musical is it has a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Because you can get going deeper than the musical and they do it right. So that's good to hear. It makes me want to see the musical, but I kind of don't want to see the musical until like I see part 2 just because I kind of like going into the movie not knowing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I know we mentioned it in a non-spoiler, but man, I gotta say Ariana Grande, it almost like maybe I'm overreacting here, but it's like she was meant for that role. Like, my God, was she good in that role?
Yeah, and that role is really hard because it's a character that if you do it not perfectly, it can be a very unlikable character. But you're supposed to kind of root for her too. Like they're becoming friends, so you have to kind of see both sides. And I thought Ariana Grande did a good job with her like physicality acting, like where she flopped over on the bed when she did
mannerisms and all that.
She was really funny. I was not expecting that. Like, she did that. She nailed it. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that either. I was like, every little thing she did, it felt like this was like her dream role. And I don't know, maybe it was. I haven't seen interviews and stuff with her, but like, I was surprised. I'm like, man, I didn't know she could act. Like, yeah, she was great. And I put the spotlight on her, but everyone acted great.
Yeah,
I thought everyone was great. And Cynthia too. I thought, I was worried, sometimes with the protagonists of films, they're kind of like the main characters, kind of the boring ones, like they can tend to be. I'm not going to say they are, but
sure.
Like a lot of times they're stale. And I thought she did great too. I was afraid she was going to be unlikable, which I know, she's kind of supposed to be a little unlikable, but like at the same time, she's not. So like, I thought she did a good job of like, she's not like a Miss Know-It-all. Like, I was afraid they're going to make her like a little Miss Know-It-all and like, but like she has her faults. She has emotion. She cares, but she, like that scene you talked about where they're dancing, where Ariana or Glinda's saying, everyone's saying, oh, she doesn't care. And she's like, oh, of course she cares.
Right.
Like little things like that. Like her character is flawed, but she's not a wicked person, So I thought she did great too.
She brought a lot of emotion to it. She definitely made me feel for Elphaba, which is good because that's kind of the whole point of the movie, is to refocus and show a different side of it. So yeah, I agree. She was likable. She did have her faults, but definitely made you feel for the character, which this doesn't work without that. So that was good.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it could fall apart, obviously without that. And also the movie had more heart than I thought. Like that scene, I know we just mentioned it again, when they're at that dance, that under the sea dance or whatever.
Yep.
Like that was a pretty emotional scene. Like I felt bad for her when Glinda actually finally like started kind of sticking up for her in that scene. I was like, oh, this is nice. Like it was kind of emotional.
Yeah, it was like a release, like, oh, finally.
Yeah. God, it was a good movie. They did the writing was great, the emotion was great, the acting was great. God, I mean, what do you think? I've been talking most of the time.
I mean, I'm echoing everything you're saying. I really enjoyed it. There were some things that you might not have caught that I think I did.
I'm sure, yeah.
When they first get to Oz and the song plays and there's those two ladies singing, those two are the original actors of Glinda and Elphaba on Broadway.
Yeah, I read that after. Now you mentioned, I did read that afterwards.
Yeah, because I saw it, I'm like, is that Kristen Chenoweth? Because that's who I knew more of. I was like, it looks like her. And then I looked it up, and it's like, yep, that's that's them, Glinda and Elphaba.
Which is funny, because she looked familiar because, for a different reason, she was in The Descendants. Which is like another musical
nice.
on like a Disney Channel original. But she played Maleficent, which is like fully opposite of Glinda. So that's funny. So she played Glinda, but in this musical she played the Maleficent. So I thought that was funny. Well, I knew they had to have been important. Even when I didn't know who they were in the movie, but I'm like, they have to be important because they're making like a big deal of this.
Yeah, and they're like pushing out the main actors of the movie. And I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah.
I'm sure opening weekend that would have been like, the wicked Marvel, like,
Thanos just showed up.
I thought little things like, I'm sure there's a lot more of that little things that maybe I will start. Like maybe there's subtle, like I said, I don't know how part 2, how it ends. So maybe there's things that I watch in this movie after I see part 2. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, I could see why that person's in here or this or
I will say there is. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
I know if I go back and rewatch this several times, there's going to be so many things. Like I read that there was like signs from where the wizard is from in our world and from like Nebraska or somewhere, wherever he's from. And like, there's so much going on. They probably jam-packed this thing with so many Easter eggs.
I'm sure. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it feels like a love letter to Wicked.
Yeah.
And you can tell, unless this is too big of a spoiler or not for me, but like, does it play into like Dorothy and them more in the second part, or is it more so like you just kind of see hints of the original Wizard of Oz?
It does.
Like, does it play? Does it tie directly into it, kind of?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In its own way, I guess.
Yeah, in its own way. Yep. It's really interesting.
Well, I mean, obviously it ties into it with the Wicked Witch of the West, but I just mean like the play. Does it? Because sometimes prequels won't like cross mix.
You'll see some stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. One scene that I thought the movie elevated, the song in the library with Fiyero. That was great. So well filmed and so well choreographed, like with the ladders spinning and people doing all those
that
cool
was interesting
tricks. Oh, that was so cool. That's another one where in the musical it's like, yeah, that was good, but it didn't like stick in my mind. But from this movie, I'm like, oh man, that was cool.
Yeah, that was interesting. And how much... Because obviously the musical, you have sets.
Yep.
Like, did the sets of this feel like authentic to the musical, and it just broadened it, or does it look kind of different from what you remember? Like, did they kind of copy and paste sets, but then expanded on them?
Yeah, I think they stayed pretty true from what I remember. I mean, I did see it a long time ago, but it felt like Shiz, and it felt like Oz, obviously, when they get to the Emerald City. And there were some things they did, like in the musical, when she's singing Defying Gravity at the end, her cape like extends and gets really long. And they did that a little bit when she finally like grabs the broom and jumps off. And then her cape floofs out, and it's a lot longer than it was. And so they did little things that definitely were like homages to the musical, and the sets felt very similar to what I remember the musical looking like.
Yeah, because I loved the world of this movie, like of Oz, I guess. It was such an interesting world to watch. Like it felt so... I don't know, like there's few movies that kind of bring me into a world, and this movie succeeded in that. Like I was interested in how this stuff worked and how, like, what is that or what is this, or like it was just interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, I think that's the best way to put it. And that Defying Gravity song, that song always gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, what are your top 3 songs from this movie? What do you think?
I would say, I think my favorite is, I don't know the names of the songs, but
Sure.
the Defying Gravity one, I think is my number one. That one's just great.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I would probably say that Popular Song was pretty catchy, and I thought Ariana Grande did great in that.
Yep. Her like swimming on the floor and being all crazy. That was really funny.
Yeah, that was great. And then there was a song that Cynthia did. It was towards the beginning. Oh,
I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember. Maybe, what were your three? Maybe it'll pop in my head.
I think in order, number one, I agree with you. Defying Gravity is so good. I was so excited to hear it in this movie, and I heard, like, my roommates are really big. He's a singer, so he was like, Cynthia Erivo can really sing, so I was really excited to hear her do Defying Gravity, and she nailed it. I think my second favorite was probably No One Mourns the Wicked, the opening song. That one always gets stuck in my head.
Okay.
And then third, Popular, I think. It's just so catchy. It's so good. But there's so many good songs. I think you're thinking of maybe The Wizard and I.
Yeah, maybe, I think that's the one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where she's dreaming about seeing the wizard.
Yes, yep, that is the one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, yeah, they were all good.
Yeah.
I would say those three definitely stuck out to me the most. And just like you said, just the set pieces and everything, it just felt. You're right. It didn't feel like a CGI fest for a movie that, at least a trailer looked like it.
It very easily could have been. Yeah, like trying to go into the world of Oz, it would have been easy to just do as much as you can in CGI to save, from building all that stuff. But I like that they went with more practical stuff. Like even that opening scene with the banners burning and the giant wicker witch thing. Oh, it just all looks so good.
It looked great and it felt so cinematic. And man, if I was the biggest, like, man, I feel for those Wicked fans, man. Because if I was like the most hardcore Wicked fan, like I was like a drama geek and I love that stuff. God, this movie, I could just feel how amazing, even more amazing this movie would be.
Yeah, but I like that they made it that like everyone can enjoy it. That's cool that we both loved it, even though we have different backgrounds with it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That's what makes it great. You're right. It was faithful to people who's grown up with Wicked, and also for new people, they made it likable too. So they did great. It's so hard to screw something up like this, or so easy. To screw something up like this.
Yeah, for sure.
And they didn't.
What did you think of Jeff Goldblum being the wizard?
I mean, he was Jeff Goldblum.
I know, but
I actually think he's perfect for the wizard.
I know.
To be
I was going to
honest,
say he literally is just Jeff Goldblum, but somehow it works as him being the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Like it totally works.
It actually works perfect.
Yeah.
So like I thought it was good. I remember seeing it from the trailer, but like Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, he just apparently was made for this role too.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, the casting was great.
So I only have like just a couple negatives.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like big negatives. It's maybe something that will be answered. Well, my first and probably the most obvious negative, which anyone could say is a negative or positive, is I hate part 1 and part 2s. It's not like a complete story, and I just want to know the end. I knew they were gonna end on a cliffhanger. It said part 1 at the beginning.
Sure. I almost feel like though that like somehow from what I remembered, I didn't think of it as a complete story, but you could watch this movie and have it be an almost complete story. Like there obviously would be some things that are left unanswered.
Yeah, you could. That's true.
But if you look at it like seeing the Wicked Witch before she was quote unquote the Wicked Witch, and seeing her humanity, and then seeing how she was turned into a villain, that is kind of a story.
And she flew off to the west.
Yeah. And obviously
That's
there's
true.
more. We know there's more. But I wonder if there's people who don't know that as part 1 and just miss that and be like, oh, that was a really good movie. That was interesting. I know more about the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, like they showed up like 5 minutes late or something.
Right.
And didn't see the part 1 title screen.
Yeah. And then they'll be really surprised next year.
Yeah, they're like, wait, that wasn't it?
I already saw that movie.
My only other negative is for me, I didn't see the chemistry between her and her sister. Like they hardly ever talked. And even when she was leaving to Emerald City, like they didn't even say bye. I just did not feel like I felt more emotion with her and Glinda, which I guess maybe is the point. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe that is the point of the story. But I didn't see any. I don't know. I thought the sister relationship was a little weak in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. I think because I don't really remember that being. It was in the musical, obviously, like the story was, but I don't remember their relationship being that super important. And I think if you think about it, like there is kind of a wedge divided between them because the little sister is like super loved by the dad, and Elphaba's like outcast kind of. But I see that like a few more scenes showing them being like friends and having a connection would have been nice to see. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my only. Again, I kind of knew it wasn't the point of the story, but they were kind of playing it kind of big in this in the movie at least.
Yeah,
like that was the whole point why she stayed originally at Wiz, or what's it called?
Shiz.
Yeah,
which is
Shiz.
a funny name.
I don't know, Shiz is Shiz, right?
Yeah, Shiz.
Well, the first time they said Shiz Universe, I'm like, wait, what did you say? But so I think their relationship was a little weak in my opinion.
Sure.
And I would say, I don't know. So what's the prince's name or whatever?
Fiyero.
So I like him, but he came like kind of late in the movie, and I still cannot. I cannot. Again, this will probably be answered in part 2. I cannot put together this love triangle, if you want to call that, or whatever. I don't know. I'm very confused. Not confused. I'm just curious where it goes. So it's not a negative. It's more so me just talking about it.
Sure.
Well, I guess my one negative was no. I'm thinking about it. They did give him a little bit of characterization. They had some good scenes together. So never mind. That's not a negative. It's more curiosity.
Yeah.
They actually had. I forgot about that scene where she put everyone to sleep. They got to Force, and he thinks it. So I actually think. They do more with him than her sister.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
So yeah, those were my 2 negatives. So I think the sister relationship and some of the side characters not fleshed out. And this is only part 1, so I can only be so critical on side characters.
Sure.
And obviously part 1 and part 2. That's the few reasons why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10. But I could totally see why you would. And maybe after I see part 2, I would give it a 10 out of 10.
I think, most of those are just from being like a part 1, part 2. Well, obviously one of them is being a part 1, part 2. But then Fiyero stuff, that'll be interesting to see. I'm really excited for you to see part 2 and to talk about it when that comes out.
I'm excited. Now, did you have any negatives that you could think of or wrote down or anything?
I thought the weakest acting was probably from Madame Morrible, the sorcery teacher. I thought she was just kind of there with everyone else being so elevated and good. She was just kind of there for me.
Yeah.
So, and when Jeff Goldblum first came on, I was like, we're just going to get Jeff Goldblum. But then as it went on, I'm like, wait a minute, Jeff Goldblum is the Wizard of Oz. So, that was, I thought that was going to be a negative, but it somehow worked out. So those,
actually, Madam, the sorcery lady.
Yeah.
I did rate her as one of my negatives, but I also didn't want to bring her up because I don't know if she's a negative. I just don't know. Is she good or is she bad? Or will I know in the second part? Because she's does she I can't tell. I'm a little confused by her character because she was training, or she knew the whole time that Oz wasn't a wizard.
Yeah.
So is she
She's definitely on Oz's side, the Wizard of Oz's side. That's just what I'll say.
But it doesn't seem like she's pure evil. At least not right now, it doesn't. But from a part 1, as a non musical seer. Is that a word, seer?
Yeah. Sure.
I couldn't
Watcher.
I couldn't tell if she was true. Yeah, watcher. There you go. That's what I was looking for. I just couldn't tell if she was pure evil, if she actually does care about Glinda, or if she just cold-hearted and just did this specifically for us. Which I guess maybe that's a good character trait. I don't know,
that's true. Yeah.
I can't figure her out.
Yeah, I don't really want to say too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think her acting wasn't up to the other actors. That was the negative for me on that. But yeah, she's an interesting character, and I do believe we'll see more of her.
But I agree. Even disregarding all that, I do think she was the weakest actor in the movie.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't really have anything else in my notes. That was pretty much everything. But man, surprisingly great for me. Surprisingly great.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna like it just because if the songs were in there, I was gonna like it. But I was blown away with how good of a movie it actually was.
I know. I can't wait for part 2, which is they're just doing it next year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So not too. So I wonder, did they already film it and they just?
I don't know. I do think, if I remember correctly, after the interlude, because this ends right at the interlude, I think the second half of the musical is shorter.
Is it?
So
okay.
It might be not as long of a movie too, which might make it quicker to film. I don't know.
Well, if it's coming out next year, they're either almost finished or finished.
They probably had to have filmed most of it before this one came out, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they probably filmed it back to back and wanted a cash grab.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Which is working.
It's working, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't fault it for it. I don't like it, but whatever. It means 2 good movies.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it a cash grab if it is a good movie. A cash grab to me is putting out a subpar thing just to get money. This is like, it is going to grab a
That's
lot of
true.
cash, but it's not, they also, I can tell they love the source material, I think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But let's be real, though. They still split it into 2 parts for money.
I mean,
But
yeah,
I don't
that's
think
definitely
cash,
a
I don't
positive.
think cash.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're right. Cash grab would be like, they don't care about this property. We just know it'll make money, and so just
Yeah. We
make
just,
it quick.
and we
let's
need to
do 2
figure out a
parts.
way to pad out some stuff. We'll make some stuff up and just to make it longer. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They might have done it on purpose to get money, but you're right. I don't think, at least the creators and the non-studio people, I
Sure.
don't think it was a cash grab for them. I agree.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah,
Cool.
go watch it, man.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
If you like musicals, you'll love this movie. Even if you just like me, you don't even need to love musicals. I think you'll still find this world interesting.
Yeah, even if you don't necessarily like musicals, some people might want to give it a shot because it might surprise you.
Yeah, it's good. Good acting and good production, good everything. Go see it.